Hello again. So now we're going to start working on updating an existing project task. Okay, so for the update task use case, we're going to first, and this is just for the happy path, we're going to first find the existing project task, then we're going to replace it with what we're passing as an updated object, and then we're going to save the update. So let's get coding. All right, public returns a project task because we do want to see the project task return with the update. Update by, I would say, project sequence, right? Because we're going to pass the project sequence. We're going to find it and then we're going to replace it. Okay, this is a little bit of a detour from how we did updates at the project level, but here we have some additional considerations because we're basically going to use the same path as we use for finding in order to update our project task. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is find the pass the updated task. Okay. Then we're obviously going to pass in the and let's pass it actually in the same order. I'm just going to minimize this so we can see it better. And the string backlog ID. And then obviously the string PTID, which stands for project task ID. All right, and good. So obviously the first thing that we want to do is try and find a project task. Make sure that our project task actually exists. We're gonna look for it, obviously. Find by sequence, and this is where we are going to find the PTID here. And I'm actually having second thoughts about this one because we might as well, just to be on the safe side. Let me think for a second here, because we could also do updated task get project sequence. And then at that point all we need is the backlog ID. That's actually a good point. That's another way of doing this, because that way we make sure that we're actually finding what we want to update. All right, you know what? Let's give it a shot. If it craps out, then what I'm gonna do is fix it. Okay, remember, we're developing, so I just did it the way I was proposing the first time, and it works fine. But then since I'm doing this again, all over again, then I'm thinking, we could do it that way too. Why not? Right? And then just hit the backlog. Okay, let's just go with this for now, right? So we find the project task. Now that we have the project task, then we want to switch it with the updated task, and then we want to obviously return this the project task once we saved it. And save project task. Right. Cool. Okay, so I think that this should make sense. It's redundant. I'm not really sure what he means with it's redundant, because we're extracting the project task. We're finding the project task with a sequence that it's actually you know what, let me do this the way I wanted to do it, or the way that I was planning on doing it first. Because we're still passing that parameter, we might still be passing that parameter onto the server anyway. But it's still saying that it's redundant. I don't know why. But anyway, why don't we wire up the? Let me see if this will boot up like this. Yeah, it does. So why don't we just go to the controller and wire up the endpoint and actually try this out? I think that's going to be a smart thing to do. And then we'll see. Okay. because I'm actually taking a different route on some of the things that I did when I first built it, because there's a lot of things that I'm like, hey, you know what, this is better, and this is why I'm actually kind of spinning my wheels a little bit. But again, it's part of the development, it's part of the whole refactoring mind. So here we're going to use a patch mapping, because we want to obviously make sure that we tell the server that we are actually updating something that exists. And for now, I'm going to stick to my earlier design, which is we pass it the backlog ID and we pass it the PT ID, or the project task ID. I think that's the last time I clarify that. You should know what I mean by now. And then we're going to do the public response entity of type generic, and we're going to call it update project task. And then a project task, it has to be also valid request body of type project task, just like when we created it. Okay, and we need the binary result here, and I'm gonna make some room for some more code. Okay, and then we're gonna use obviously the path variable, and well, actually it's safe to copy paste here. And this might be also a good case why we want to keep the same. Actually, I have to put a comma here. Well, we want to keep the same pattern, right? So that we can do quick things like that, like this, right? The project task, and that's about it. Cool. All right. So remember, we even when we're updating, we still want to make sure that we're only passing good data. So we can literally copy and paste this. And again, see here we're repeating ourselves too. I'm not crazy about that. And I remember mentioning this to you, that this can be abstracted even further. I just don't want to get into that right now, because it is working and it's only 2 lines of code. It's not that bad, but this could be extracted a little lower because we're repeating code. We're actually repeating code, but anyway. Okay, so then let me see. Then we want to get the project task. Actually, why don't I call this updated project task? Okay, and then we're going to want to. No, you know what? Here, yes. Okay. So then we're going to do the project task updated task is equal to the project service. We're going to call the update by project sequence here, and that's probably a crappy name for it, to be honest, but anyway, we're going to pass it. And see here, it tells you, actually helps you with the attributes that you need to pass. So just going to pass it the project task. Then what's the next one? It's the backlog ID. And then the next one is the PT ID. I'm not too happy with this, because I mean, we should be able to extract this one out of this one, and I'm not saying we're not. All I'm saying is that I don't know why it's saying that it's redundant, to be honest. Right now I just want to get this to work, and then I'll perhaps concern myself and in looking into what's going on here, right? And we're gonna pass the updated task, right? And then we're going to pass the HTTP status of OK. All right, so this is basically our endpoint. And right now we're not doing any validation whether or not it exists. We're just going to test the happy path. Okay, so we're going to restart this. And then we're going to go to our Postman. And we're going to copy and paste this. And by the way, I should be saving my collection. So I'm going to do that once I'm done with this video. And then we have to make sure, let's just make sure that we do this nice and clean. First of all, the type is going to be patch. Okay. We need to go to the body. We need to make sure that we're passing raw application JSON. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to find by ID, which is what we did in the last lecture. Okay, it still exists. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this exact object here, paste it here, and then update test. And then if I did everything right, this should work. We have the 200 OK, We have the update test. Let's go look at our database and make sure that this is fine. We go to the project task, and the one with ID 5 should have the name update test. Perfect. So why don't we go and update another one? Because they all have the same name. This is just ugly. Let's actually update the one with ID 1 and call it second update. All right, and you know, in the flow of our application, we're gonna make the API call to load this on our form, and then at that point we're going to pretty much load everything that we are supposed to update, put it on our form. And so imagine this is our form, right? We're gonna paste this, and let's say we loaded everything on the form, and then we're gonna call it second update. And then this should update that second one, and it seems to work. That worked. And we're gonna bring this back here, and we're gonna try and search our project task, and then we have it second update. Now, what happens if we want to do a third update passing bad data? Our validation should kick in because we set it up, right? We in the controller anyway. So let's see, and please include a project summary. So this is all looking good. Now the next thing that we want to do is obviously make sure that we cannot do this. We want to make sure that we cannot do that, which we can right now, and that's not cool. And we want to make sure that we certainly cannot do this, right? This is an existing project right now. Update 2, which we can right now. And then we have to handle what happens if we are actually trying to update something that doesn't even exist. I think at this point, what was that? Okay, yeah, because we're not doing anything with that ID there, right? Like we're not. Let me see. Yeah, we're not doing anything with that. But the good thing is that everything's working. We just have to work on our validation. Make sure that this is valid. Make sure that this is valid, and then make sure that this, when they're both valid, they actually belong to each other, which we already did, right? So I'm just gonna stop the video now, and then we're gonna go work on that. And actually, I think there's gonna be a really cool refactoring there for you too. So I'll see you in the next one.